I am 87 years old, and I need to tell you something most people will never tell you, not because it is complicated, but because it hurts. If you really understand it, you will not be able to live the same way again. I have lived long enough to watch entire eras disappear. I have buried 2 husbands, 1 child, most of my friends, and almost every person who knew me when I was young. I have watched people chase the same things with the same urgency, and I have watched the same regrets arrive at the end like clockwork. Here is the truth that still follows me into quiet rooms. We live like we have forever when we barely have anything at all. And the cruelest part is that you do not learn this slowly. You learn it in a single moment, and then you forget it. You forget it on purpose. You forget it because forgetting is how you keep going. Let me tell you when I learned it. Not at 80, not at 70, not even at 60. I learned it at 29 years old. And it took me the next 58 years to understand what that moment was trying to teach me. It was 1967, June 6th. I remember because it was a Tuesday and I had been counting the hours until Friday. My husband, Daniel, and I were going to drive out to the lake that weekend. Nothing fancy. A cooler, a blanket, the kind of day you do not post about, the kind of day you assume you can always have later. We had been married 6 years. We had 2 little children, Emma and Lucas. Daniel worked as an electrician at the paper mill on the edge of town. He was steady. He was the kind of man who fixed things quietly, who would tighten a loose hinge without announcing it, who would kiss my forehead every morning before he left and say, "See you tonight, Claire." Except that Tuesday, he did not come home. There was an accident at the mill. A machine jammed. Someone rushed. Someone skipped a step. A chain snapped. They said it happened fast. They said he did not feel it. They always say that, as if the speed of pain is the only thing that matters. The call came in the late afternoon. A voice I did not recognize asked if I was Daniel's wife. I remember my mouth going dry before the man even said the words. I remember looking at the clock on the stove as if the numbers could protect me. Then there were cars in my driveway, a supervisor from the mill, a policeman who kept clearing his throat. They stood in my doorway and said my husband's name like they were afraid it might break. I walked past them and outside because my body did not believe them yet. I kept thinking, if I step into the fresh air, this will turn back into an ordinary day. But the air did not fix anything. It just felt too bright. They asked if there was anyone I could call. I could not think. My hands were shaking so badly I could not dial the phone. The policeman dialed for me. When I finally drove to the mill, the parking lot was full of flashing lights. Men in hard hats stood in small groups, silent. Some of them looked at me and then looked away. I searched every face like a starving person, even though I already knew. Someone handed me Daniel's lunch pail. It was dented. There was a smear of dust across the top. I remember thinking, he will be hungry when he gets home. My mind kept trying to build a future that was already gone. That is what shock does. It makes you insist on tomorrow for a few more minutes. What nobody tells you is this. When someone dies suddenly, they take all of your unsaid words with them. Every "I love you" you thought you had time to say later. Every apology you planned to make after you cooled down, every hug you cut short because dinner was burning, every moment you were physically there, but your mind was somewhere else. They take it all. That night, I sat at our kitchen table with 2 plates I had already set out. The food got cold. The house was too quiet, like it was holding its breath. My children were asleep in their room, their cheeks still soft, unaware that the world had changed. I remember staring at a small stain on the tablecloth and thinking stupidly that I should scrub it out. That is what shock does. It makes you reach for tiny normal tasks because the big truth is too heavy to hold. At the funeral, people kept telling me how strong I was. I wanted to grab them by the collar and ask what they meant. Strength felt like a costume they were trying to zip onto me because it made them less afraid. Emma was 5, Lucas was 3. Lucas did not understand the word forever. He asked when Daddy was coming back. I told him Daddy cannot come back, and then I ran to the bathroom and vomited because the sentence tasted like metal. After everyone left, I found Daniel's work jacket hanging on a hook by the door. It still smelled like soap and cigarette smoke in the outside air. I held it against my face like a child. For weeks, I could not bring myself to wash it because washing it felt like erasing him. Years later, I realized something else. Grief is not only sadness, it is a spotlight. For a while, it makes you see clearly. You look at your children and you feel how fragile everything is. You look at a sunny morning and you feel how it could vanish. You promise yourself you will never take any of it for granted again. And then the spotlight fades, not because you are cold, but because you are tired. That fading is where the danger is. At some point, after the phone calls and the neighbor's arms around my shoulders and the polite sentences people say when they do not know what else to say, I was alone again at that table. And I made a promise. I promised I would never waste another day. I promised I would live intentionally. I promised I would love openly and never postpone joy again. I meant it. And then I broke that promise almost immediately. I did not break it because I stopped caring. I broke it because life keeps coming. Laundry still piles up. Bills still arrive. Children still need breakfast. Work still demands your hours. Grief does not stop the calendar. I hugged my kids more. I said, I love you more often. I tried to be present. I want you to understand this part because it is why so many people repeat the same regret. After a loss, you get a burst of clarity. You call people back. You look up from your plate at dinner. You hold your children a little longer. You tell the truth faster. You think, I have changed. But clarity is not a permanent personality. It is a moment, and moments pass. Little by little, your brain protects you by returning to normal. Normal is how you survive. Normal is how you go back to work and pay rent and pack lunches. Normal is how you stop crying in the grocery store. And then one day you catch yourself rushing again, snapping again, scrolling again, postponing again, and you realize you did not lose your lesson. You simply buried it under routine. That is why I am telling you this now, before you have to learn it the hard way. But then, little by little, the old habits returned. The rushing, the multitasking, the constant list in my head, the belief that tomorrow would be easier, that tomorrow I would have more patience, more attention, more time. Here is what I did not understand at 29. It is not enough to survive tragedy and tell yourself you have changed. The real lesson is not that life is short. Every greeting card tells you that. The real lesson is that you will forget. You will slip back into autopilot. You will start believing you have time again. And that forgetting, that slow drift back into complacency is where your life disappears. I remarried in 1971. His name was Harold. He was kind in a different way than Daniel. He made me laugh. He accepted my children as his own. We had 37 years together before his heart finally gave out. And you want to know my biggest regret about those 37 years? It is not the fights. It is not the money stress. It is not the hard seasons. My biggest regret is the ordinary Tuesday nights I spent folding laundry with the television on, half listening to him talk, answering him with, while my hands moved and my mind wandered. My biggest regret is the times he said, "Do you want to take a walk with me?" And I said, "Not now, I'm busy," as if busy was a permanent emergency. There is one memory that visits me more than any other. It is so small that it feels almost embarrassing to call it a regret, but that is the point. Harold would come home around 6, loosen his tie, and sit at the kitchen table while I moved through the house like a machine. Dinner, dishes, clothes, the endless loop. One night he said, softly, "Claire, sit with me for 10 minutes. 10 minutes. That was all. I remember I did not even look at him. I was folding towels, stacking them with perfect corners, like the corners mattered more than the man asking for me. I said, after I finish this, he nodded. He did not argue. He just stood up, put on his coat, and took a walk alone. I heard the front door close. I kept folding. I kept telling myself I was being responsible. When he came back, his cheeks were red from the cold. He smiled and said, "It smells good in here." And I let the moment pass. If I could step back into that kitchen for 30 seconds, I would drop every towel on the floor and sit down. My biggest regret is the way I treated ordinary evenings like they were guaranteed. Because here is what nobody tells you about living into your late 80s. You do not just lose the people you love once. You lose them over and over again in your memory. Every time you remember them, you remember another moment you wasted, another conversation you did not fully hear, another hug you cut short because you had somewhere to be, another chance you assumed would come around again. My son, Lucas, died in 2009. He was 42, pancreatic cancer. I was 71. I remember sitting beside his hospital bed, holding his hand, feeling how light it had become. He looked at me with the same eyes he had as a boy, and he said, "Mom, I'm sorry I didn't call more." And I wanted to scream. I wanted to say, why are we apologizing now? Why did we let months go by when we could have called each other on a random Tuesday? Why did we treat love like an appointment we could reschedule? But I did not say that. I held his hand and I lied. I told him we had plenty of time. We did not. Lucas was the child who always moved fast. Even as a boy, he ran everywhere, as if the world might close before he reached it. He became a man who worked too hard and joked too much and promised he would slow down once things settled. When he got sick, he still tried to protect me. He would change the subject when I walked into the room. He would tell me he was fine when his skin looked gray. The week before he died, I found an old voicemail on my phone from months earlier. It was Lucas calling on his way home from work, leaving a message that said, "Hey, Mom, just checking in. Call me when you can." I had never called back. I had seen the notification and thought, I will do it tonight. That voicemail sat there like a tiny coffin. So when he apologized to me in that hospital bed, all I could think was, we are always apologizing at the wrong time. We save our tenderness for the edge when what we needed was tenderness in the middle. My last partner, Martin, died 3 years ago. He was 89. We were together 15 years. He had gentle habits, the kind older people develop, like telling the same story, because the story is tied to who they are. And even after everything I had lost, even after everything I had learned, you know what I still did? Sometimes I glanced at my phone while he was talking. Sometimes I sighed when he told the same story again. Sometimes I thought, I'll pay attention tomorrow. There was not always a tomorrow. The point is not that everyone dies. The point is that you are acting like you are the exception. You act like your life will be different, like you will have time later to live the way you want to live, like you can postpone what matters and still collect it in the end. I am 87 years old, and I can tell you with absolute certainty, later does not arrive the way you think it will. You think you will travel when you retire. Your knees will ache. Your energy will be smaller. Your courage will be quieter. You think you will reconnect with your sister after this busy season at work. That busy season will stretch into a decade, and then she will be gone. You think you will write the book, learn the language, have the conversation, fix the relationship once you have more time, more money, more confidence, more whatever. You think you will start calling your father when work calms down. Work does not calm down. It only changes its costume. You think you will be more patient with your kids when they are older. Then they are older and they do not need you the same way. You think you will take more photos. Then you look up and realize you have more pictures of your meals than of your own family. You think you will fix your health when you have more time. Then your body becomes a problem you cannot negotiate with. You think you will tell your friend you miss them after you get through this week. Then the weeks stack up and the friendship becomes a memory. Most people do not ruin their lives in one dramatic decision. They ruin them in tiny delays. You will not, because here is the cruel joke. You do have time right now. You just do not value it correctly. You trade it for things that do not matter. You spend it on people who drain you. You waste it worrying about problems that will not matter in 5 years. You scroll through other people's lives and forget to live your own. And then one day, if you are lucky enough to live as long as I have, you will look back and realize you had all the time you needed. You just did not use it. I am not telling you to quit your job and run off into the woods. I am not saying ignore your responsibilities. I am saying something much harder. Pay attention right now, today, to what you are actually doing with your one brief, unrepeatable life. Is your grandmother still alive? Call her today. Not tomorrow, today. Because I am a grandmother, and I can tell you exactly what she is doing right now. She is sitting somewhere, maybe looking at old photos, maybe staring out a window, and she is thinking about all the people who do not call anymore, all the grandchildren who are too busy. And she is telling herself it is okay that everyone has their own lives, that she understands, and she does understand, but it breaks her heart a little more each day. Your parents, if you are lucky enough to still have them, are not going to be here forever. And when they are gone, you are not going to care about that argument you had years ago. You are not going to care that they were difficult sometimes or that they did not always understand you. You are going to care about all the phone calls you did not make, all the visits you postponed, all the times you could have just sat with them and you did not. I know this because I am that mother now. I had 2 children. Lucas is gone. Emma is 63 now. She visits every Sunday, rain or shine, every single Sunday. And you know what? It is not enough. Not because she is not a good daughter. She is wonderful. It is not enough because no amount of time is enough when you truly love someone. Every Sunday when she leaves, I watch her walk to her car and I think quietly, will I see her again? At my age, every goodbye might be the last one. And that is not morbid, that is just arithmetic. But here is what you need to understand. It is not different for you just because you are young. Every goodbye might be the last one for you, too. You just do not believe it yet. I have a great granddaughter. Her name is Lily. She is 15. Last month, she came to visit me. She sat on my couch with her knees pulled up, her face lit blue by the screen. She laughed at something and covered her mouth, and for a second I saw the little girl she used to be, the one who wanted me to read the same book 3 times in a row. I watched her thumbs move. I watched her attention travel everywhere except the room. I wanted to say, look at me. I wanted to say, this is one of the last times, but I did not want to turn love into a scolding. So I just asked her about school, and she answered without looking up. I smiled anyway because I love her, even when she is not here with me. She thinks she has forever. She thinks her friends' texts are urgent. She thinks the moment sitting with her old great-grandmother will always be available. It will not. And someday, probably when she is much older, she will remember that visit. She will remember the screen more clearly than my face, and it will hurt her in ways she cannot imagine yet. That is what I want to save you from, not the regret of big mistakes. You can make peace with those. The regret that destroys people is the regret of simple absence, being physically present but mentally somewhere else, treating the people you love like they will always be there. They will not always be there. I am not saying this to scare you. I am saying it because it is true. I can feel my body slowing down, not in a dramatic way, in small, honest ways. The stairs feel steeper, the nights come faster, the world feels softer at the edges. I have had a long life, longer than I expected, longer than some people get. I am grateful, but I am not okay with the thought that you might waste yours the way I wasted so much of mine. Because here's the truth, I learned decades too late. The moments that matter are not the big ones. They are not your wedding day, your graduation, your promotion. Those are wonderful, but they are not what you will replay when you are old. You will replay Tuesday afternoon when your dad tried to show you how to fix the sink and you stayed patient instead of snapping. You will replay the random Saturday morning when you made pancakes and nobody was in a hurry. You will replay the walk you took with someone you love when you actually listened instead of planning your next sentence. The ordinary, unglamorous, unremarkable moments when you were just there, fully there. Those are the ones that matter, and they are available to you right now. But you have to choose them. You have to fight for them because everything in our world is designed to pull you away from them. Your phone, your work, your ambition, your fear, your endless list. If I could go back to that 29-year-old version of me sitting at the kitchen table the night Daniel died, here's what I would tell her. The promise you are making right now to never waste another day, you are going to break it. You are going to break it over and over again because you are human and humans forget. So here's your real job. Remember and return. Remember and return. Every time you drift into distraction, notice it and return. Return to presence. Return to attention. Return to love. Not perfectly, but persistently. I am 87 years old. I have been alive for about 31,000 days, and I can count on two hands the number of days I was fully, completely present. That is my real regret. Not that I did not achieve more, not that I did not make more money, not that I did not travel to more places. My regret is that I sleepwalked through so much of my own life. Do not do what I did. Do not wait 50 years to learn this. Do not wait until everyone you love is gone to realize you should have loved them better when they were here. When this ends, call someone you love. When this ends, sit with someone in silence. When this ends, really look at the people in your life while they are still here to be looked at. Because I promise you, with everything I have left in me, later does not come